There's a moving truck somewhere in America right now, pulling out of a driveway, and a mother is standing at the front window watching it go. She's smiling. She told him to go. She meant it when she said this was a good opportunity, a good city, a good move for his career. And some part of her, watching that truck disappear around the corner, already knows something she won't say out loud for years. That this isn't just a move. This is the beginning of a different kind of distance, one measured not just in miles but in years between visits, and visits between phone calls, and phone calls that get shorter every time. My name is Margaret. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I want to talk today about a particular kind of loss that almost nobody names correctly, because on paper it looks like nothing went wrong, nobody fought, nobody said anything cruel. Your child simply moved for a perfectly good reason and then somehow never quite came back. If this is your story, I want you to know there's real psychology behind why this happens, and it's more specific than he just got busy. We'll get into it. According to data from the Pew Research Center, Americans are more geographically mobile for career and opportunity than almost any other developed nation, and adult children moving away from their hometowns for work has become one of the most normalized life events in the modern American family. Nobody questions it, everybody celebrates it. A son taking a job 3 states away is treated correctly as a success story. What almost nobody talks about is what that success story does to the architecture of a family that used to share Sunday dinners and birthday parties and ordinary Tuesday afternoons. Here's the part that surprises people. Researchers who study family relationships across distance have found that physical distance and emotional distance are not the same thing, and they don't have to move together. Some families maintain extraordinary closeness across thousands of miles. But the research is also clear that distance removes something that's easy to underestimate until it's gone: the accidental, unplanned contact that made up the bulk of most parent-child relationships. The drop-by, the "I was in the neighborhood," the phone call because something small happened that day and he wanted to tell someone. Distance doesn't just remove visits, it removes the entire category of casual, low-stakes connection that relationships quietly run on. What's left, once your son or daughter has moved away, is only the high-effort kind of contact, the scheduled call, the planned visit, the deliberate text. And here's what a lot of psychologists who study this point to as the real mechanism behind drifting apart after a move. Every single point of contact now requires intention. Nobody accidentally stays close to someone 3 states away. You have to choose to call, he has to choose to call back. And when two people who love each other, but who were never especially skilled at initiating that kind of intentional contact, both end up needing to do it constantly, the gaps tend to widen, not because anyone stopped caring, but because casual closeness was the thing actually holding the relationship together, and casual closeness is exactly what distance takes first. There's something else researchers have found that tends to catch parents off guard. The child who moves away is often building, simultaneously, an entirely new social and emotional support system in the new city. New friends, a new partner, sometimes, new routines, new favorite restaurants, a new gym, a new church, or none at all. This isn't a betrayal of the family left behind. It's simply what healthy adult development tends to look like. But from the outside, watching your child's new life fill up with people and places you've never seen, it can feel like watching someone build a life that has no room reserved for you in it. That feeling is real, and it deserves to be taken seriously rather than dismissed as insecurity. Now, here's the side of this that I think gets understood the least, and it's the side from your child's perspective. A study on long-distance family relationships found that adult children who move away frequently describe a specific kind of guilt that builds quietly over time, one that has almost nothing to do with not loving their parents and almost everything to do with the math of modern adult life. They have a job that demands real hours. They may have their own children now, or a partner with their own family across an entirely different set of states. Every visit home requires not just affection but logistics, time off work, flights, the complicated choreography of whose holiday gets which set of parents this year. Many adult children report that the guilt of not visiting enough becomes its own reason to avoid the topic altogether, because every conversation about visiting turns into an accounting of what they owe and haven't paid. Silence, paradoxically, can start to feel easier than another conversation that ends in apology. There's one more piece of this that's specific to the moment we're living in, and it makes the whole thing more confusing rather than less. Many parents in this situation can see their child's life unfolding on social media. The new apartment, the new friends, the vacation photos, all of it visible, all of it seemingly close. Researchers who study family communication in the social media era have pointed out that this creates a strange kind of false intimacy. You feel like you know what's happening in his life because you've seen the pictures, and so the absence of an actual phone call can feel even more pointed than it might have a generation ago, back when not hearing from someone simply meant not knowing anything at all. Seeing his life without being invited into it is its own particular flavor of distance, one earlier generations of American mothers never had to navigate. It's worth naming, because the ache of watching from outside a life you helped build is different from simply not knowing, and it deserves to be recognized as its own thing rather than folded quietly into general worry. Here's what almost no one tells parents in this situation, and it's worth sitting with for a moment. The years right after a move are statistically the most fragile period for the relationship, and also the period where small, deliberate effort matters more than almost any other time. Family researchers who study long-distance relationships have found that families who maintain closeness across distance tend to share one specific habit. They build new rituals designed for distance, rather than trying to recreate the rituals that only worked when everyone lived nearby. A standing weekly call that isn't about catching up on a long list of things, just a short check-in, a shared photo thread instead of waiting for big news. Sending something small and physical in the mail, which research on long-distance relationships shows creates a different, often stronger, emotional impression than a text ever does. These are small things, but families who do them consistently in the first 2 years after a move are significantly more likely to maintain real closeness 5 and 10 years later, according to longitudinal research on geographic family separation. I want to say something gently here, because I know how this can land. If your child has been gone for years now, and that early window already closed without those rituals forming, this is not evidence that the relationship is unsalvageable. It simply means the rebuilding has to be more deliberate now than it might have needed to be earlier. And deliberate effort, even years in, still works. It just requires more patience with the slow pace of rebuilding something that used to happen automatically. There's a particular kind of pain in this version of distance that's worth naming directly, because it's different from the pain of an outright conflict. When a child moves away and the relationship simply fades rather than breaks, there's no clear moment to grieve and no clear villain to be angry at, including yourself. You can't point to a single conversation that went wrong. You're left instead with a gradual erosion that's almost impossible to address directly, because there's no specific incident to bring up. You can't say we need to talk about what happened in March, when nothing happened in March. Nothing happened. That's exactly the problem. Across the United States, this particular shape of estrangement, the kind built from career moves and modern geography rather than any single rupture, is becoming one of the most common versions of family distance researchers track. It rarely gets discussed the way dramatic estrangement does, because it doesn't look like a story. It looks like ordinary American life. A kid who did well, who got a good job somewhere else, who built a life. Nobody at the holiday table asks why he doesn't visit as much, because the answer everyone assumes is simply distance. But you know, and I know, that distance is often doing more emotional work than its 3 syllables suggest. If you're living this right now, here's what I want to leave you with. The research on rebuilding closeness after geographic separation is more hopeful than this season of the relationship might feel. Family therapists who specialize in long-distance reconciliation consistently find that the relationships most likely to recover real warmth are the ones where the parent stops measuring love by frequency of contact and starts focusing on the quality and consistency of whatever small contact does happen. A short weekly text that always lands without pressure attached tends to do more, over years, than one perfect 2-week visit that both of you spend slightly performing closeness for. You don't have to fix the distance overnight, and you don't have to compete with the new life he's building 3 states away. You just have to keep being easy to reach in small doses for long enough that easy becomes the habit again. If this is part of your story, tell me in the comments how far away your child ended up and how you've been finding your way back to each other across it. So many of you are living some version of this exact distance, and there is real comfort in knowing how many tables in how many states are missing the same particular chair tonight. The miles between you don't have to be the whole story, they're just the part that happened first.